Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. I've got a couple of busy days, so I'm going to start this video here. We'll see how the days progress, going through what's going on. It is Saturday morning. Darryl is running the youth games thing with the church on Monday and Wednesday of next week. So there's some baking that I need to do for them tomorrow. I did a practice run of the stuff that I was doing today, but I also have a bunch of Easter stuff here that I thought I wanted to try out. So I need to do a few different things. Just trying to figure out what order I want to do them all in, and I need to sort out dinner eventually too. It's 1:45, so I spent the morning doing converting work, printing off 3D printing off some paracord jigs for Sonnet to use, and we've been rearranging bedrooms, and you know, it is what it is. All right, the next thing I need to do is make some yogurt. Now, I have a Louvel yogurt maker that has a 2-litre glass jug that you can use to make your yogurt. Now, the problem with the 2-litre glass jug is that I had 2 of them and one has been smashed for a start, but also that it's glass. And so portioning and stuff, and then they have to use the whole 2 litres before I get a chance to make the next lot and things like that. So what I've decided to do is I sized up the yogurt maker. I'll pull it down when I'm ready to do it, and I reckon I can fit 5 wide mouth pint jars into the yogurt maker. So I'm going to mix the yogurt up, and then I'm going to pour it into the pint jars, and I'm going to pot set it in the pint jars. That's the goal anyway. So I'm going to make up my normal, which is 100 grams of just full cream milk powder, and 2 litres of UHT milk. Now I use UHT milk because then I don't have to heat it. If you're using fresh milk, you have to heat it to 40 degrees or higher, 43 or something like that, and then you have to let it come back to 37 before you add the culture and things like that. That's all a lot of work. But we also don't buy fresh milk very often at all because we don't use dairy milk in much of anything. Darryl and I use dairy milk in our dairy cream in our coffees, but other than that, the only other time we use dairy milk is for things that are fermented like yogurt. So having UHT milk for that works. So all I'm doing is I'm putting 2 litres of UHT at room temperature into here with 100 grams of milk powder. Then I'm going to add some culture. So I have this culture here. It is a Bulgarian yogurt starter that I am giving a go because I haven't got any yogurt made up to use. Now I have these little spoons that have like a pinch, a dab, and that's the sort of measurements they use. This uses 1 gram per serve sort of thing. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the pinch one that says 1/16 of a teaspoon, and we're going to see. I haven't used this culture before. The previous culture that I used, you only used the tip of a knife worth. So this is probably a little bit more than that, but still not a huge amount. We'll see how this sets up. If it doesn't set up particularly solid, it's not such a big deal because I just use it in cooking. I also do add some calcium chloride drops, which also help to thicken it up. So I'm just going to grab those. So these are just from Green Living Australia, and I just use like 5 or 6 drops in and mix that up, and that just helps for it to thicken up as well. So that's all we need to make yogurt, right? So now I'm just gonna put these things back in the freezer, and I'm gonna grab my jars. I have sanitized my jars. Now the only thing with yogurt is that if there is some contaminants in what you're doing, sometimes the yogurt just won't set up or it goes slimy. So you do have to be a little bit careful with that, as much as you can be anyway. So I cleaned everything well before mixing it up, and now I'm going to put the culture and the milk powder in the freezer because that's where I store it because I barely use it, and grab my jars. I don't sweeten it at this point because we sweeten it once it's set. Now I think ideally I'd like to have the plastic reusable lids for these that are the only, like, that are used purposely for the yogurt. So 10 that are a specific color or something. We'll see how we go with that. But for the moment, I'm just going to use the standard mason jar lids. So for the moment, I'm just going to use the lids that come with the jars, and then we'll see. Now, I believe I can fit 5 comfortably in the yogurt maker. So that's what I'm doing. I wouldn't want the kids to eat a whole one in one sitting anyway, so they'll be sharing them regardless, because it's normally as part of other things that they're eating as well. I just don't think they need 500 grams of yogurt all at once. Of course, we've got some milk powder because I used a square container because I wanted something I could quickly sanitize, so that's fine. The milk powder, we'll just skip that bit of milk powder. It's just a thickening agent anyway. So we're just going to top all these up, and this fits quite well in these, just like that. And then I'm just going to put the lids on them, and we'll get the yogurt maker down. So this is the yogurt maker. Normally the one jar goes in it. So I tested it out, and I'm pretty sure I can put the 5 jars. So the little dots on the bottom are going to be a little bit of a thing. Let's see.
I think you're getting it 5.
I thought I could fit 5. Let's see if, and they might be on too much of an angle there. So the lid's not going to go on because they're sticking outwards. That's fine. I really thought I could fit 5. I thought I tested it.
3 and 2.
It takes 12 hours to set. So we'll just have to do 4.
We'll quickly do the other.
Just have to do the 4, and we'll see how this goes anyway, and see whether it's worthwhile doing or if the 2-litre jar is still the way to go. So I just need to put the water in the bottom to the mark and then turn it on for 12 hours, and we'll see. Alright, so Sunday afternoon we're making the cakes for Darryl to take for the kids tomorrow. So I bought these little tins, so there's a variety of colours, these little individual tins. They have lids and pre-packed forks and stuff, so it makes it nice and simple. And all we're going to do is mix up what I call my wacky cake. So it's known as a wacky cake, a depression cake, or whatever else. And because of the way it's made, it is egg-free and dairy-free, but super moist. It works really well. Now, it is not a healthy cake, but it is a tasty one. And this is an Easter treat for school holidays, so I don't care. Now, unlike most of my recipes, this one's done in cups. I know I tell you all the time I hate doing things in cups, but this recipe is just so forgiving that it really doesn't matter. I really should at some point probably weigh it all out just so that I've got it in grams and stuff, because it's easier to throw into like the Thermomix and stuff if it's in grams. But I've never had a fail with this, even with just using cups and stuff. So we start off, we put all the dry ingredients together. It's 2 cups of sugar. I'm just using raw sugar because that is my preference. 2 cups of sugar. And then we want 3 cups of flour. Now, the best method for flour is to scoop into the cup and then take off the top, so that you've got flat full cups. So I'm using a scoop to scoop the flour into the cup and then just taking the top off. And we've got 3 of these, because that way you're not compacting the flour in the cup and getting more than you need. So 3 cups of flour. We then want half a cup of cocoa, which I think I need to open a new one if I remember correctly from yesterday. Half a cup of cocoa, and again, we're being fairly imprecise. I'm going to just do half a 1 cup of cocoa. All right. Then we are going to add a teaspoon of salt, and have my measuring spoons. All right, we're going to do a teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of bicarb, or baking soda, not baking powder. 2 teaspoons of that. All right. Now we're going to just whisk all this dry together, get the lumps out of the cocoa and stuff. All right, now the standard sort of practice for this was then to create 3 little divots. I don't find it really matters, but you can. And then it's where we add our wet ingredients. So first up, you want a cup of oil. There's 1 cup of oil, and see my divots aren't big enough anyway, so it's all going to cascade, so it doesn't really matter. A cup of oil, then you want 2 cups of lukewarm water. I'm just going to warm the water up slightly off cold with the kettle so that it's lukewarm. I'm going to add vanilla, so we're just going to add a big heaping tablespoon of vanilla bean paste. And then we're going to add the warm water. So we've just got 2 cups of just off room temperature water, just slightly warmer than room temperature water. 2 cups out, and you can add a 1/4 cup of coffee, but I'm not going to because this is going to the kids. So I just add a little bit extra warm water there just to make sure that there's plenty of liquid. And then we need to add some vinegar. And the last that I made, I added a tiny bit of this raspberry flavoring just to give it like I'm not adding the coffee, so this is like a hit of, it's like 1/2 teaspoon of this raspberry flavor, and it's got a real nice choc raspberry flavor. And then we need to add vinegar. So then we add 2 tablespoons of vinegar. So the vinegar with the bicarb and that sort of thing is what's going to create the lift, because there's no eggs and no baking powder. Baking soda reacts with acid, which is the vinegar. So you get lift from that. So now we are just going to bring all of that together. And it looks like a sloppy mess when you first start doing it. And then as you keep on going, it turns into a nice, rich looking cake batter. Now, I'm not sure how many pans this is going to fit. This does me 24 cupcake, like muffin size cupcake mixes. So we will see how many pans. We're going to aim for 85 grams of batter in each little pan. So I'm going to weigh them to try and get them nice and even and use my cookie scoop. So there you go. It's nice, luscious, thick looking chocolate batter. So now we're going to rearrange a little bit. And I'm going to grab my scales. And then I've got my tins. So the goal is going to be to zero them out, and then we will see. It should be a scoop and a half, I reckon. Yeah, a scoop and a bit. So that's the goal, is to get them to, see, that ended up being too much. And then we're just going to put them on a baking tray, and we shall see how many we get out of this one batch. So about 25 minutes at about 180, and this is what we got. Now, this would be perfect if I was doing like big fancy buttercream icing, but I don't know that I'm going to. We'll see. I'm probably just going to put a glaze on them and some sprinkles and stuff, which means I could have filled them a bit further. The reason we have them this low is so that, you know, if you're doing the big swirls and stuff, when you put the lids on them, there's enough room. I will have a think about what I want to do. I don't know that I've got any Nuttelex or anything to use as a dairy-free buttercream. So I'll make that call, but they look perfect regardless. This was, so 25 minutes, about 180 at the 80 to 90 grams of batter. Now, ideally, these, the cakes would have like really fancy sort of, you know, piped icing and stuff, but I am not going to. I don't have the time, the skill, or whatever, but I also have made them dairy-free so far, and so I'd have to use dairy-free margarine, and Darryl forgot to buy any. So I'm just going to do a chocolate glaze basically. So, and then put some decos on it. So we've got a cup of icing sugar and then sort of 3 tablespoons of cocoa, about 6 half there, and then we're going to do a little bit of vanilla and a tiny bit of I don't really want to use coconut cream because I don't want to add another allergen. I'll probably just use a bit of water.
Sorry.
Just add 2 to start with, and then we'll see. Did you want to whisk it? And then
The icing?
yeah. So we want it fairly thin. We're just going to drizzle it over. Now I bought these for the kids that I just remembered, and they're little Easter jelly lolly trolley things. So we're going to use some of these with some sprinkles to decorate them. We mix it all in, and we want it fairly thin because we're going to drizzle it over while they're wet. Oh, while they're hot, sorry. All right, so all we're going to do is we're just going to put like a tablespoon on each one, and we're going to, so try not to make too much mess, Miss Left-Handed.
You might want to, I'm going to grind some beans.
So it looks like it's going to need about 2. Put a tiny little bit in the end there. So it's going to need about 2 per to get it to spread out, and then just do one at a time and spread it out because otherwise it'll set up. Just like that. So we're going super simple and like that.
Here's the next one.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, and I had big plans for today. Darryl and all the kids are at the youth group thing, so I sent them off at 8 o'clock with all the stuff I'd prepared, all the stuff they'd prepared. And then I thought, I should really get stuff done. So I have. I've done 3 loads of washing. I've rearranged chests of drawers out of the kids' bedroom into somewhere more communal for clothing. I went through some winter linen, and I've printed off a 3D printed Kavik a pair of rabbit ears for his headphones that he asked for. And, lots of bits and pieces like that, but I haven't got exactly a lot done of anything else. And that's what happens when no one else is here. You tend to potter a little bit, don't you? So anyway, I do need to make some instant porridge because the kids are low on breakfast foods at the moment. I need to make granola as well. I made yogurt the other day, but I haven't got any granola. But I just don't feel like running the oven at the moment. And having to sit here for hours on end while I'm doing multiple trays of granola. I will probably do that tomorrow or Wednesday. So I'm going to do the instant porridge mix. Now, I've been talking about how I got a new mason jar sealer. So Kogan had a birthday special on just recently, and they were selling a bunch of stuff for $5. So I grabbed the mason jar sealer that they were selling, which will be the same as what a lot of other places are selling, I'm sure. Electric mason jar sealer thing. So I wanted one that could do wide mouths, which this one does. So it comes with some spare lids, and it comes with a jar opener and a charging cord. So line the lid and put it on. That's the whole process of it. Regular mouth. Oh, it's got a regular mouth and a wide mouth apparently. So it says there's an adapter. So I'm guessing that's the regular mouth, and this is the wide mouth. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly put this on charge. And because I didn't think about the fact that it would need charging. That's pretty neat that it does both. So I'm going to put this on charge while I get the other stuff sorted out. So I'm just going to, do I have anything out here to put it on charge on? Probably not. I'll probably have to take it inside. So I'm just going to go and do that, and then I'll be back. So apparently it comes charged. So that's neat. It was on 99% when I plugged it in. Okay, so one of the purposes that I wanted this for is for herbs and spices and stuff, because I tend to buy them in bulk, but then I don't want to be opening the same bulk jar all the time for usage, so I tend to decant it into a smaller spice jar and then grab from the larger jar when I need it. I'd like to be able to seal those larger jars up. Some spices, it's more important than others, like paprika, as we know. I go through that quickly enough that it's not really a big deal, but things like my coriander, I only use for a couple of different things. So it'd be nice to have the bulk of it sealed up. But the other thing is I bought strawberry and raspberry freeze-dried for our PB&J instant porridge mixes. I also bought Darryl some more salt and vinegar powder. So what I want to do is, instead of storing it in this bag to get hard, is I want to decant it into a few jars and then vacuum seal some of the jars and have just one that I'm currently using open. That's the plan anyway. So we have freeze-dried strawberry powder. Now this stuff is so expensive, but they had it on clearance. So if you're looking for some, Melbourne Food Depot has some on clearance at the moment. It doesn't have the price on here. It was $65, $70 odd for a kilo of freeze-dried powder. When you're going to sit there and go, God, that's a lot of money, go and have a look at the price of freeze-dried fruit. All right, so I have a funnel. I bought a bunch of these Aussie Mason wide mouth quart jars purposely for storage. So I'm not sure how many it's going to take, but the whole point of these jars was bought as storage jars, because I won't can with them because the quality of them is a little hit and miss, and I have better options for canning with. So I got these really cheap in a bulk buy a while back. They were selling by the carton the half gallons and the quarts and pints and stuff in the Aussie Mason brand. Cheap, so I grabbed a whole bunch. Now, some people use these Aussie Mason jars for canning with no problems at all, and some people have problems, which is what I mean by hit and miss. So canning is such a big job that the idea of something failing because of the quality of a jar really just gets to me. So I tend to reach for my known stuff that I know works well, rather than risking using something that I'm just not sure about, because if it fails, it's a lot of work down the drain sort of thing. Now, it says on the instructions that you want it down to the ring, which that pretty much is, because there's a whole bunch of air in it. I kind of need like a packing stick or something. Here we go, one of my packing sticks, and let's see if we can just break up some of those bigger chunks. Now, I assume this was last season's freeze-dried fruit, which is why it's cheap. So there is some clumping and stuff in it, but it doesn't worry me because I'm going to be grinding it up for the instant porridge anyway. Okay, so then it says to make sure this is clean. And then we want the wide mouth on there. Now, how long do we hold it for? Does it tell me? Vacuum for at least 40 seconds, apparently. It's got a little timer counting down on the top. You guys can't see that. I don't want to tip it while it's working. All right, it did about 20 seconds and then it stopped itself. So is that saying that it's done what it can? And there we go, vacuum sealed. So that's a nice jar of strawberry freeze-dried fruit, vacuum sealed into the jar. Now, I am going to put the rings on them because it's a storage jar. And if the seal goes, I don't want this tipped out, because like this is like $30 worth of strawberry powder. So we don't want that going anywhere. And then I'm going to fill this jar as well. I think it's going to be probably 3 jars full, so probably 2 storage jars and a working jar by the looks of it, which is fine because I just pulled these 2 jars out of a fresh carton. So I've got another 9 up there. And then I've got, it's because I've got the raspberry powder as well. Last time I only bought raspberry, I don't think I bought strawberry, but they were both cheap, and because I had this vacuum sealer and stuff, I decided I was going to, even if I don't use them all this winter, if I keep them vacuumed up, then I can use it next winter, because I don't use it a lot in summer. I could use it for like colouring icings and all that sort of stuff, but I don't do a lot of that sort of fancy type baking or anything, so it's just, I don't have a whole lot of use for it, but it can be thrown in smoothies or anything too. Just that I tend to use fresh fruit in that, and you know, the whole purpose of buying freeze-dried fruit was purely because it let me do shelf-stable instant porridge flavoured with fruit, real fruit, that it wasn't going to make all the oats and everything clump up. So, you know, anyway, I'm rambling because I'm doing this. So there, so we've got another jar done there. We're going to seal that one up, and then, as I said, I think that's one more jar, and then the last jar will be the jar that I work from. So we will seal this one up as well. I should, you know, grab a cloth rather than my hand, but it is what it is. That one went for 20 seconds as well. I'll see what the sound is like, and I'll leave the sound in if it works, because you can actually hear the change in noise as it goes, as it pulls suction. So that is, now these lids that I'm using are just the ones that came with the Aussie Mason jars as well, so I wouldn't use these for canning either. So again, it's a good use of them. So yeah, there's 2 jars. I'm going to grab 4 more jars because I'm going to need 1 more for this and 3 for the raspberry as well. So I'll test these again over the next week or whatever, but I'm pretty happy with that so far. So we've got 2 raspberry, and it was vacuum sealed on the 7th of the 4th. Raspberry, vacuum sealed 7th of the 4th. And strawberry, vacuum sealed 7th of the 4th. Strawberry, vacuum seal 7th of 4th. So I've just written on the top of them just a little note up on the top of that lid so that I can cross that out and reuse that lid for vacuum sealing something else. I'm going to put these out of the way so they don't get opened by mistake. And then we've got the strawberry and the raspberry here. Now I am going to mark these because when they're side by side, you can see the colour difference. But if I didn't have them side by side, then I'm not going to know. But I am going to mark it on the glass, not on the lid, because I can see myself putting the wrong lid on the wrong one and then second guessing myself, and Nico's come off. So we've got the lighter red one, which is the strawberry, which I'm just going to put strawberry. I don't know if you can see that, but strawberry just on the side of the glass, and this one I'm going to put raspberry. Now it doesn't really matter because how I use them is pretty interchangeable, and I used only raspberry last year, but it'll be nice to see the difference in the two. So happy with the vacuum sealer. It worked well, and I'm going to use it on my spices and stuff as well. I'm going to just stick it all back in the box for the moment, and find somewhere for that to be stored with the jar key as well. Figure that one out. And now I'm going to put these away. I'm going to wipe this bench down, and I'm going to get stuff sorted for the next step. All right, so instant porridge. I do a few different things. So I just buy rolled oats in bulk, and so I'm going to grind these up to instant oats, which is basically just ground up rolled oats. I have banana chips. Now, I do have the dehydrated banana chips from Aldi as well, and they're the ones that I normally use, but they're a little bit wet and they go a little bit clumpy. These ones are from Costco, and they're a lot drier. I don't know whether it's the different way that they've been dehydrated or what, but they also have a little bit of salt in them, but I put a bit of salt in the instant porridge, and I don't know, we're going to see when it's ground up in porridge whether it imparts any banana flavor or not, but we will see. So there's not a whole lot of goodness in these, mind you. Anyway, I normally do a peanut butter chocolate. So I've got banana chips. I have this Macro Mike protein powder. It was the Mystery Black Friday protein powder. I never looked to see if I guessed correctly, but we have said all along that it tastes like choc banana. So that works well as a choc banana with the banana chips. I've got the strawberry freeze-dried powder with a peanut butter flavored protein powder, and then I'm going to do a brown sugar cinnamon style one with this one. Now this one again was a mystery flavor. I've never looked back to see what it was, but it tastes a little bit like birthday cake to me, so that'll be nice with brown sugar cinnamon birthday cake type thing. They're the lots of flavors that I'm going to do. So I do certain ratios. I do it in lots of 600 grams of oats, because that's a good sort of amount to put in the Thermomix to grind. I find that works to get it nice and fine. So I do everything in the ratio of 600 grams. So Thermomix lid. And all we can do is put it up to speed 10 for about 30 seconds. So that's 30 seconds on speed 10. And we've got fine oat powder. Now, I need to grab my containers for these. Now I have these 3 containers that I bought for, there's 3 of these, the other 2 are behind me, that I bought for porridge. The lids, of course, aren't stored with the containers because the kids can't possibly make my life easy that way, but I'll figure that out. And what I normally do is I normally do 1.2 kilos worth of oats per container. So I do a double batch per container. I just like to grind them in 600 gram lots, because I find that if you go too much more than that, you just don't get the texture as fine. And when you're just doing it with boiling water, you want the texture as fine as possible. Otherwise it doesn't soften up nicely. So we're just going to do another 600 grams here. And I might actually go through and do 1,200 grams in each container, and then I'll come back. All right, so we've got our 3 containers. Now, the other thing I add is sugar. There is this balancing act with children to make sure that something is sweet enough that it appeals to them, but not so sweet that it changes their taste buds, and not so sweet that it ruins them for eating everything else. Now, I got a bit of flack last time I did this last year about the amount of sugar. I do 100 grams per 600 grams of oats, like the 600 gram ratio. Now, when you break that down with all the other ingredients, it ends up being about 10 grams per 100, which is the absolute max that I will buy in cereal. So like if I'm shopping for cereal in a grocery aisle, anything over 10 grams per 100 I will not purchase. So this stays within that scope. Now, in saying that, I have been tossing up doing half sugar, half sweetener to just reduce that sugar a little bit more. They're children though, and sugar isn't bad for children so long as it's done in moderation and everything else, and I don't feel like this is particularly high in sugar, to be honest. There is some artificial sweeteners in the protein powders that as well, and of course there's natural sugars in the fruits. There's natural sugars in oats. I'm sure oats have some naturally occurring sugars. 0.3 per 30 grams of naturally occurring sugar. So the overall sugar content of this is higher than just the added sugar, but it's personal preference. It's got to be how it works. And the amount of sugar that I put in these is like, I think I worked it out that it was like 50% or even 40% of those little sachets that you buy with sugar in them. So, you know, there is that. So realistically, we'd be looking at 600 grams of sugar between all of this, which just sounds like so much, doesn't it? And that's the problem. I'm making it in bulk, and so that makes it sound like it's just like an extraordinarily large amount. And even to me, I sit there and second guess myself constantly. So what have I got left in my jar here? I have 400 grams of sugar left in my jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that 400, and I'm going to add some sweetener as the other 200, and then we'll see how the kids feel about this batch. The other thing is that this batch is, especially when it's cold, at the moment not so much, but when it's cold during the day, they sometimes have this as snacks as well. So it's eaten pretty rapidly. Now I'm waiting on my erythritol delivery, so I'm just going to use some allulose because it's what I've got available, and bring that up to the 600, because allulose is basically a 1-for-1. So there we go. I'm going to grind that up nice and fine as well. I would normally add my coconut milk powder to that, though I may have pushed quantities a little bit too much there. I may just add the sugar. I'll use scales, add the sugar to these, and then add the coconut milk powder to the Thermomix separately, just because it clumps up. But I don't think there'll be enough room in the jug. So we're looking at 200 grams per container of this mixed sugar. Alrighty. So we've got the 1200 grams of oats, 200 grams of sugar. And then we're going to add coconut milk powder. So let me find my coconut milk powder tub. Now I need to order some more of this for this shopping trip because I'm running low. It comes in this big 15 kilo bag, and I use it from there throughout. I probably go through a 15 kilo bag a year, probably. It just depends on what I'm doing. So we're going to do, I do up to 200 grams of coconut milk powder per 600 grams of thing, which would be 400 grams, which would be 1200 grams between all of them. Because we only add hot water, we don't add any milk when we're heating them up. So let's do, so 2 scoops is about 400 grams. So I'm just gonna do that for each one, and I'm just gonna quickly blitz it up to break it up a little bit, just to make it easier to mix in. So we've got 400 grams of coconut milk powder per oh, that'd be right, per jug. I'm gonna need a spatula. Oh, actually I've got my packing stick here, which will work. Managed to spill some. So I'm going to do that, 400 grams per for each one. I haven't had my camera going. This one is the banana chocolate one. I ground up the banana chips, so I put the banana chips into the Thermomix and ground them into a powder and added them. Now, the banana chips are a little flavorless. They don't taste a whole lot like banana, but I'm gonna do it anyway because if anything it'll just be like having a bit of a nut in a banana, choc banana based one. So because I ground them up, I'm gonna use them, but I think I'll go back to using the Aldi dehydrated chips. So we have 3 big scoops of the choc banana protein powder, plus we did 200 grams of the ground up banana in there as well. I'm not going to add any salt because there is salt in the banana chips. So that's the choc banana one done. This one is going to be the PB&J. I added the 3 big scoops of the peanut butter protein powder. I do have just peanut butter powder as well that I could use, but I have the peanut butter protein powders have a bit of sweetener in them too, so that adds to the appeal for the kids. It's Macro Mike brand because that's what I buy. Even though they don't want to sponsor me, I still really enjoy their protein powders, so it is what it is. Now I'm going to add the strawberry powder to this as well. So I normally do about 50 grams of the strawberry powder per the 600 gram ratio thing. So we're going to do 100 grams of this. I do really like, there is a cherry cheesecake protein powder that Macro Mike has, a white berry, I can't remember what the name of it is, but there's a berry based cheesecake flavor which works really well in this one as well, but I've run out of that one and I haven't bought any more recently because protein powders are expensive, so we're going to use what we've got. So that one has 100 grams of strawberry powder. It has the peanut butter protein, the coconut milk, the oats, the sugar, and then this one we're doing brown sugar cinnamon. So I am going to add some protein powder as well to it to give it a bit more of a boost of flavor. And this one is the mystery one that I reckon tastes like cake batter. So I'm going to do the same 3 in there, and then I'm going to put some cinnamon, except I can't find my cinnamon jar. And I've just realized that I forgot to add molasses to the sugar to make a brown sugar. So I've done really well on this one. So what might I do instead? So we've got cake batter flavored. Maybe I'll just use some raspberries. So I've got the raspberries open as well, and this will be like raspberry cake. Sounds nice. So I'll do that. I'll do 100 grams of the raspberries in here, and it'll be raspberry cake sort of a flavor. And that should work. So now all I need to do is find the lids and give these a good shake. I, of course, could only find 2 lids, so I have to go back to look for another one. But they're all just mixed up together. Now, I also didn't look at the labels, and they've got the wrong labels for the flavours in this particular instance, so I need to wipe them off and find my chalk marker to remark them. Not that it really matters, but that's the 3 flavours done. So it's like, what do we end up with? 2.2-ish or something kilos worth of instant oatmeal per, so like 6.6 kilos all up of instant oatmeal. Each serving, I think they use a quarter cup, maybe half cup, I'm not sure, but it's pretty much an allowable snack at any time. I don't really heavily restrict it. So when it's in the middle of winter, they will eat it a couple times a day sometimes, just because it's a nice warm treat, which is why I want to do those instant soups as well with the veggies in them too. So anyway, that's them done, and now I'm just going to find the other lid and clean up. Hey everyone, it is Tuesday afternoon and I didn't end up filming anything today. So I was going to add on to the previous stuff that I'd already filmed, but I didn't because I'm tired and I was doing repeat stuff. So I'm just getting on here to end this video now because I'm going to edit it all for release tomorrow morning. So I did do some stuff today though. I did another whole batch of the kids' cakes for their youth thing tomorrow, so I'll put photos in here of those. So I did those, but I also did some apple cinnamon scrolls and some cinnamon scrolls in the leftover cake tin things that I had that can go to the adults or the kids or whatever, and a plate of just the leftovers for us to have too. And I've got baked risotto going in the oven for the kids for dinner. So I also did a whole bunch of 3D printing today, a whole bunch of D&D work, just lots of bits and pieces that just meant that I just didn't get around to actually turning the camera on for anything. And Sonnet helped me do all the baking and stuff, and it's always hard to film while someone else is in the kitchen with you. So I'm just finishing off. So this was a couple of days of food. I can't even remember what I did now until I edit it tonight, but enjoy, and I'll see you guys on the next one.